where currently, if you send out a book via interlibrary loan, it is the charging library that sends out the overdues. Okay? We added special library because they were omitted in the library card policy. We added them in number 2 and number 12 just to include them within that realm. Because they might have a card. I know that Carlson isn't here, but the VA library in our area, our cards go up there and their cards can come down. Okay? From the survey that we sent out, one of the questions that was asked is, do you overlay other libraries' records? And the response was quite interesting. I'm not sure that people really kind of knew what overlay truly meant because a lot of them said no. But in some of the other questions that we had asked, like, do you change patron information, like update addresses and things like that, making notes in there? They said yes, and they responded to all of us. So we were sure that we were hitting the term correctly by overlaying, or if they knew what that meant. So we did tackle this overlay issue, mostly because unless you change all of that information correctly when you take on that patron from another county, their checkout times, things like that might be kind of wonky because some of the information didn't get changed correctly. Basically, they need to have the profile changed. That is the big one. You need to make sure that you change the profile and change some of the statistical information in the demographics tab. Make sure that you're only using what your library uses versus something else. Campbell County uses user cat 1, I think, is adult and juvenile. Is that right? Yes. We overlay a lot of the records. We don't use user cat 1 as adult and juvenile. That's our user cat 2. So if I go in the director station and start looking at what my user cats are, and I start to see this other weird stuff come up, my statistics aren't going to be right. So I need to make sure that those are changed. And that's why we added this section to the wildcard policy to say specifically, you need to change the profile and the demographics when you do an overlay. The nice thing about this is that Mark and I are currently working on a tech note on how to do an overlay, or taking ownership is what we decide to change it to. Whether that stays or not, I don't know, but we thought maybe taking ownership defined it a little more to what it actually meant than an overlay. So
what you're recommending is that libraries, if you're going to take over a patron, take them over fully, completely.
Yes.
Totally.
Yes.
Okay.
They're signing your application card, you're taking it over. Now this is public libraries. The academics, you're exempt from that rule. The policies does state that the academics are not part of the overlay process. Same thing with the schools. That would be the same thing.
Is there a notification procedure as part of that? In other words, if I'm co-opting your record, taking ownership of it, should I call you and tell you that? Should I just assume that when it becomes mine, it's not going to be an issue any longer?
The current wildcard policy does state that you need to notify that library. As for who you notify in that library, it's a little wonky right now. What we're trying to do within the tech note is to say, here's where a list of circulation people, currently it says, I think that people are just using the circulation list. I'm not sure that's totally effective. If they don't do it there, they send it to ILL because we all have an ILL box. But I think that we would like to streamline that and say, okay, let's put it in one place. This is who you contact. Yes.
Okay. Anybody that overlays Sweetwater County records, we don't want to know.
That's the other option too. That you're not alone. You are not alone in that.
We don't keep any paperwork after a month.
So you're saying you don't want notification?
We do not want to know.
And I think that that is one of the issues that this tech note needs to take on to that. And because we've just started that part of it, that will need to be addressed because Laramie County is the same way. They don't want to know.
We really don't need to.
We don't care. It's just an email that we go, oh, click, 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 you know. For those who do keep those paper records, it is important for them though to get that notification.
That was more or less my question. How do you keep track of who's where and when?
Who, what, where, and when, yes. And for those who do want to know that, it's imperative that their third person or whoever is in charge of doing those overlays, make sure that that address and information is correct. And we will send out emails to say that, to say, hey, if you want this information, you need to keep this updated so that you can get it. Not like we're trying to ignore you, but you can get this information. Okay? Universal cards are smart cards. Basically, a universal card is some of the colleges might use one card, their activity card, as their library card and everything else. What we're saying only is it needs to have both a printed and an eye-readable barcode on it. That allows it to be used in any public library, or any library, which is what the WYLD card policy says. Patron loads are basically those colleges or community libraries that want to use that. Usually it is colleges. They want that load done. They need to talk to the WYLD office about how the information needs to be put in for those loads to happen. That's basically all. Patron photos, we can use them. We can do them right now. No larger than 76 by 76 pixels. Contact the WYLD office about where they sit on the computer, and if some of my memory is a little faulty on this. I think Mark said that it sits on a computer, meaning that your main circ disk, if it has more than one, it has to sit on all three, not just in one place. But again, not reliable in some memory things, okay? But contact the WYLD office on that. And most of this all has to do with them. When you go to do your purging stuff, they're the ones who are going to do it easily. They're going to give you a list of what they purged or what your requirements are, things like that. Patron notification via text messaging. The WYLD office is currently in contact with an alternative vendor. CIRSI does not support it, but they do have someone that does have the technology available. Authentication. Patron can have more than one card, basically, because they might be a high school student and have a public card, or a college student and a public card, etc. Debt collection. The big part of this is that please check your notes field before you do overlays, before you do any of this. If there's any question about that, contact that main library to find out exactly what that means. And that goes for changing any sort of address information, anything like that. Please use the notes field and mark them. The WYLD card policy says how you need to mark it. Your initials, your library, the date of when you change information. If you want to, you still can email that library too, but basically if you mark it in the card, it's there, we know who did it. That's just a nice favor to the other library. The last one here has to do with pickup locations. And if you were in Desiree's program, just the last program, she talked about the libraries that you can have available in your drop-down list, which also is the libraries that you can have available in your pickup list for people who place in an iBistro request or an interlibrary request for your iBistro. Yes, you can do this. This was the only thing that we had hit on with a statewide borrower barrier. And the only thing we're saying is that, yeah, you can do it. The two libraries need to get together and say, yeah, we want to do this. And then it goes to tell the WYLD office, hey, we've agreed to do this, and now Johnson County and I can have pickup locations that their Johnson County patron can pick it up in Sheridan, or my Sheridan patron can pick it up in Johnson County. Done deal. Okay? That's just basically an agreement between libraries. Susan? Pardon me?
Can I talk about this
Sure.
a little bit? In Albany County, your students who are students at the university can come into our library and use their cards at our library, which is really great. But because this wasn't activated, we were giving them our own cards because if they were interlibrary loaning, their pickup location would be their home library. And so this is really terrific for us. And I would love it if Albany County could be a pickup location everywhere because of the university students who come to Laramie
and use their cards here, because to be issuing a Albany County card